Okay, so let's just get right into it. A massive rule, one that has pretty much shaped global e-commerce for years, just vanished. I mean, practically overnight. And this isn't some small policy update. This is a fundamental reset for anyone selling stuff online into the United States.
So get this, 4 million. Every single day, U.S. Customs and Border Protection processes about 4 million of these little duty-free packages. I mean, that is a fire hose of goods, and it's what has fueled the explosive growth of countless online brands we all know.
But as of August 29, 2025, that game has completely, totally changed. With just 30 days' notice, the system that let this flood of packages pour into the U.S. duty-free, it's being shut down. And this is a huge shift, believe me. It's going to affect almost every single e-commerce brand that ships into the U.S.
All right, so let's back up. What exactly was this so-called $800 loophole? What was this rule that was so powerful it quietly supercharged the global e-commerce boom? Well, it all comes down to a tiny but mighty piece of trade law. For years, there was this law known as the de minimis exemption, and honestly, it was the secret engine behind giants like Shein and Temu, not to mention countless small businesses. Basically, it said that any package valued under $800 could just zip right across the border into the U.S. without paying a dime in import duties or taxes. Think of it like a personal duty-free pass for your online shop.
And this chart, wow, it really shows you the insane scale of this. Back in 2015, we were talking about 134 million of these shipments a year. Fast forward to 2024, we're looking at over 1.3 billion packages. It just exploded. It became the default shipping method for a huge chunk of the internet.
Okay, so why the sudden shutdown? Why did this all come to such a screeching halt? Well, the change wasn't just fast. It was driven by this really complex mix of economic, security, and political pressures. And the final call came down, and it came down hard and fast. On July 30th, 2025, an executive order was signed suspending the de minimis exemption globally. And with just 30 days' notice, that loophole will officially slam shut on August 29th.
So what were the official reasons? Well, the White House laid out a few things. The list included national security concerns, cracking down on fentanyl smuggling, but also stopping what they called tariff evasion by some of the big international sellers, the ones accused of splitting up big orders into smaller packages just to abuse the system. And of course, the goal was also to try and level the playing field for U.S. manufacturers who've had to compete with all these duty-free imports.
Now, this is where it gets really important. This is not some one-size-fits-all ban. You have to understand that there are now two very different sets of rules, and it all depends on how a package gets shipped. This is where things get, well, complicated and also really interesting.
So the new rules basically create this huge split down the middle. On one side, you've got the commercial carriers, your FedEx, UPS, DHL, and on the other side, you have the international postal network, the packages that end up at your door via USPS. For the commercial guys, the rules are pretty straightforward. For postal, it's a whole other ballgame.
All right, let's talk about the commercial carriers first. If you're using a company like FedEx or UPS, the situation is, well, it's stark, but it's clear. That $800 duty-free ride is over. Period. Every single package, I don't care what its value is now subject to standard duties and taxes, and it needs a formal customs entry.
But for postal shipments, it's a completely different story. The executive order cooked up this special temporary system. For the next 6 months, carriers can opt into paying a flat rate duty on each package, and this rate is based on the tariff rate of the product's home country. And let's be clear, this is designed to be painful. We're talking flat duties of $80, $160, or even $200 per package. And here's a huge change kind of buried in the fine print. To even calculate these new duties, for the very first time, all postal shipments have to declare a country of origin. This was never required before, and it is a massive, massive headache for postal operators all over the world who now have to somehow collect this info for every single little package.
Okay, so you're an e-commerce business. You're faced with this new reality. What can you actually do to adapt? Because let's be honest, the old model of shipping cheap individual packages straight from an overseas factory is broken. It's time to get strategic. So let's break down what that looks like.
So logistics experts have basically put together this no-nonsense survival checklist. First, you've got to audit your entire supply chain, everything. Then you need to calculate the financial hit this is going to have on every single one of your products. But really, the most important thing, the big one, is you have to rethink your entire fulfillment strategy. And for a lot of brands, that's going to mean a major, major pivot.
And this right here is exactly why that last step is so critical. The math has been completely turned on its head. Let's take a simple $10 product. If you're sourcing it from China, after a truly staggering 145% tariff, it can now cost you over $24 just to land it in the country. But a similar product sourced from right here in North America, even if it costs a bit more to make, say $12, it could land for half that price, all because it avoids those insane duties.
So, what's the smartest play now for a lot of brands? It's going to be shifting inventory into the US and fulfilling domestically. Think about it. You pay duties just once on a big bulk shipment, and you pay it on the lower wholesale value, not the retail price. This is going to dramatically cut your costs. It gets rid of those nasty surprise fees for your customers, and it gets your products to them way, way faster.
What's happening here is that this entire shift is forcing the global logistics world, especially the postal networks that were kind of caught flat-footed, to evolve, and evolve quickly toward a new standard.
You know, we were talking to an expert from the Universal Postal Union recently, and he put it perfectly. He said the old way of doing things, asking the customer to pay duties when the package arrives, that's officially dead. It's not scalable. The only real way forward is a model called Delivered Duty Paid, or DDP.
And DDP is really all about transparency. It just means that all those duties and taxes are calculated and paid by the customer right up front at checkout. No more surprise bills showing up at the door, no more packages getting stuck in customs. For the postal networks and for sellers, this is actually a huge opportunity to offer a much better, more competitive service and maybe win back some of the business they might have lost.
So, at the end of the day, this isn't just some minor policy tweak. It is a fundamental teardown of that whole $2 to your door era of e-commerce. And it really leaves us with a big, provocative question. Is this the end of cheap online shopping as we know it? Or is it the start of something better, a smarter, more resilient, and more transparent global supply chain?